Who's he?
Kentman!
He's not important!
Okay. Hello, gamers and collectors. It's your boy Kentman, bringing that JRPG and fan service content you deserve. And, you know, I miss talking about Dead or Alive. I think one of my favorite things leading up to Dead or Alive Venus Vacation Prism was just talking about Dead or Alive. Even though it wasn't in the same vein of the fighting game, it still was nice to kind of have a conversation about Venus Vacation, of what it was going to be when it got here. And now it's here, and I've been playing it. And now that I've been focusing on it after I beat Yumiya, which I can say here, I did finally beat Yumiya, hey, and got the Platinum Trophy, which you will see in a future video very soon. But it got me more thinking about Venus Vacation and Dead or Alive, the whole series in general, and what's next for the series. Because, I mean, obviously, it does kind of seem like the Venus Vacation games are the primary focus of Dead or Alive and Kill Tecmo at the moment. However, there was a game that got announced that made me shift my focus and think that maybe there could be a new Dead or Alive game coming out soon, and that is, of course, Ninja Gaiden 4 with Ryu Hayabusa returning. As you know, he is a very valuable part of the Dead or Alive franchise. And again, it kind of made me wonder where they will take the story from here. But at the moment, there's not a lot of information we have about Ninja Gaiden 4 besides the initial trailer we just got. And if Kasumi and Ayane is going to even show up in the game. They say they might show up in the game, but it's hard to really say. Another reason why I think they're planning something is because we've gotten these brand new Ninja Gaiden 3 figures for Ryu and Kasumi that got announced for next year for January, and we haven't had a Kasumi figure in such a long time. I know this is more based around Ninja Gaiden, but Ninja Gaiden does take place within Dead or Alive. The whole story takes place in the same universe, so it makes me wonder, are they planning for something? Are they gearing up for something? It doesn't really, I mean, it does kind of hint that they are preparing for something, which is weird for me that we didn't get a re-release of Ninja Gaiden 3 this year. We got Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, so it's weird that they're showing these figures versus Ninja Gaiden 2 Black figures. And maybe somewhere down the line we might get some Ninja Gaiden 4 figures of Ryu, and maybe new Kasumi and Ayane and Momiji and other characters that could show up possibly in the game. And it does make me wonder what they have planned for Ninja Gaiden 4. After Ninja Gaiden 4, could they bring out a new Dead or Alive 7? Because, I mean, that was kind of how the trend worked before, technically story-wise. So the story is a little convoluted, and I'm pretty sure a lot of newer Dead or Alive fans that came in from Venus Vacation and the Extreme games, because that's all you have right now to play in Dead or Alive 5 and 6. Maybe you don't know the story, and just to give you a quick TDR and some clip highlights of the story, just so it goes into the initial point that I have about this video, so it starts to make sense. It first started with the Mugen Tenshin clan, and you had Raido and you had Shinden, who were competing for the next head of the family. But Shinden was a lot better than Raido, who didn't like that Shinden, being the younger brother, was better than him. So eventually he ended up getting picked for the lead, the head clan member, and then Raido was like, I don't like that, I'm peacing out, so fuck you. And then eventually he became like all in one from My Hero, where he just was like stealing people's like techniques for a bunch of years. But in the meantime, Shinden became the head of the Mugen clan, and he had two kids named Hayate. Nope. I mean, he had a wife. He got married with a wife named Ayami, not Ayane. Don't get confused. And then you have his two kids, Hayate and Kasumi, who were training to also be the next head of the family, but being that Hayate was the oldest child and the male, he was set in line for the, you know, being the head of the family. However, Raito didn't like that. He didn't like that his nephew was going to be the lead. So before some time of that, he kind of snuck back into the village and decided to do some heinous stuff and grape, remove the G, Ayane, and that led into Ayane being conceived. But because, you know, she was conceived through grape, remove the G, and the family did not like her. So she became Naruto, essentially, and they chastised her a lot. And even though she grew up with Kasumi and Hayate as, you know, friends, but didn't know that she was their sibling the whole time, and she ended up starting to hate Kasumi because of that, even though it wasn't really Kasumi's fault. She was just like, I'm kind of here existing for some reason. And then I don't want Hayate becoming the leader of the clan, because I don't like that. I don't like that at all. So he came back. So with the Kamehameha Blast, I mean the Torn Sky Blast, him and Hayate had a beam clash, and because Raito was a little stronger than Hayate because he's been out there fighting and collecting powers, he overpowered Hayate, and Hayate ended up getting struck back into a tree, and he ended up he was in a coma for like ever. He was not usable anymore. So that sucked. So Kasumi, he was like, I want to get revenge for my brother. So she ended up leaving the village and joining the Doa Tech tournament. For even all of that, you had Ryu Hayabusa, the boy, and Ninja Gaiden 1 and 2, who originally wasn't meant to be that, but then it got retconned for Ninja Gaiden 1 and 2, the ones that came on the Xbox. And so the whole events of his games takes place before the first Dead or Alive, and then Hayate was like, hey, can you look after my sister? Because him and Hayate were bros, they were boys, they were ninja boys. And then they decided he would go to the tournament with Kasumi to watch over Kasumi, so he would just protect her and stuff. Kasumi did fight Raito and eventually did beat him and was like, cool, I got revenge. But then she ended up getting kidnapped and no one knew where it was. So when Ryu showed up, he was like, I don't know where Kasumi is. She got kidnapped. He was like, what do you mean? She was just there fighting Raito, but she disappeared. But at some point, Hayate also got, you know, kidnapped somehow, but kidnapped by a clone of Kasumi before she got kidnapped. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but that is the story. Victor Donovan, who turns out to be the mastermind behind everything, and he created Mist to get powers or something, and then he's the one that hired Bioman to kill Fame Douglas, and then eventually Helena was like, okay, I'm gonna get revenge for that. But then somewhere in between that, Christy was the true mastermind villain that killed Fame. Well, at first Helena thought Ayane did it because Ayane just was a dick to everybody that she met, from Kiriko to Hatomi to anyone she met. She was just kind of a dick to people, and she was like they would ask her questions and she would be like,
I don't want peace, I want problems always.
Bro, she just wanted problems with everybody. I don't know what Ayane's beef was with everybody, but she just literally hated everybody. After some time of Dead or Alive 3, Zack ended up becoming the winner because Ayane technically won in Dead or Alive 3 after beating Garnet, her adoptive father, and he ended up taking all the winnings to Vegas and doubling his odds and creating Zack Island for Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball. And from that point, he just kept creating new islands, and then that's where Masaki comes into place, because then that's when Masaki comes into place because she became his assistant, but not really, because he met a girl named Miki, who was technically his girl, but assistant and accomplice into making stuff, but she kind of disappeared after a while. She was there, but she wasn't there. And then Misaki became the kind of the assistant of the Venus Vacation Islands, as you did, because of the mobile game. And then also you had still Victor Donovan doing stuff, but then eventually he doesn't do stuff anymore by Dead or Alive 5. And then that's kind of where I'm at, because I didn't play Dead or Alive 6 yet. So the thing is here is like, it's a fighting game story. And I know you're not really supposed to take fighting game stories seriously, but for a person who is not that good at fighting games, the only thing left for me was the story. It's one of those stories that I want to see a better cleanup of the story, because it seems like it starts to get a little out there. I mean, that makes sense for Itagaki-san. He was kind of like a wild creator, which is great. I mean, at the end of the day, he just wanted to make good fighting games, but also he had to come up with a story, so he came up with the story in his own best way of thinking it, but it also all connected into all the games. So like, even though the Dead or Alive Extreme games are spin-off games, but they're still canon to the story because of stuff and events that happens. They're about to start doing construction out there, so I apologize. And it comes to a point where you have 3 different games, that is the Ninja Gaiden games, the Dead or Alive games, and the Extreme games, and technically 4 if you count Venus Vacation being its own thing, but it is still part of the Extreme series. But like, it's not, because like some of the characters by Prism isn't even there anymore. So it's like, what is the story? And some parts of me, I feels like I kind of want a soft reboot for Dead or Alive, but that also means that Ninja Gaiden would have to have a soft reboot. But I kind of like the direction that Ninja Gaiden was going on in some ways, and I don't know how to even fix the story, you know? And if they do a soft reboot, would I want a fighting game? Like, I want a fighting game, as I said before, because it just seems right to have a Dead or Alive fighting game, you know? Because like, all the other fighting games are out right now, and especially newer fighting games, from with Virtual Fighter coming back and Street Fighter 6 getting a brand new update soon. Tekken 8 just got their cluster fire of an update, and all these other fighting games that are classics, you know? And it just makes sense that Dead or Alive should be there. Or they could take the page from Street Fighter 6 in their World Tour mode, where you go around in this open world zone of places and you meet different characters within Dead or Alive, from Kuriko to Helena to all these different things, and you get to interact with these characters and still do fighting and learn how to play Dead or Alive. It feels like that is what the story should be, an adventure RPG, because it has that kind of feeling to it more than an actual fighting game story. I mean, Tekken 8 has a very outlandish story mode as well, so it kind of makes sense that Dead or Alive would have an outlandish story mode as well, because, you know, the whole rivalry between Etageti-san and Harada-san, and it would make sense that they would have similar kind of styles of story, because, you know, both stories were very outlandish and stuff. But nowadays, since Dead or Alive has taken such a different direction in the way they handle Dead or Alive, I feel like this would be like the perfect time to kind of do like a soft reboot with like a Dead or Alive Origins, and kind of reset the world back a little bit and kind of take it back to where it was just about Raito and Shinden, and then their rivalry, and then they consume to their kids, and then they try to go into their whole mess of stuff, and then you have Helena trying to, you know, figure out what her father is, and that would be like a really cool adventure game to play. Or they could do a Stellar Blade kind of game, or they could do a Tenchu kind of game. I mean, at the end of the day, I think I just want a soft reboot, and I kind of just want to see Dead or Alive return in the future, because one, I really do like the story of Dead or Alive, even though it's kind of convoluted in a way, and it seems wrong that the games are not around anymore. I just know I want a new Dead or Alive game. if that makes sense. At the end of the day, I just want a new Dead or Alive game where I can like talk about all the characters. I don't want it to fade into an existence of nothing. I mean, sure, I do like Venus Vacation, and I feels like it does kind of seem like Venus Vacation Prism is kind of like a reboot of the Dead or Alive series, because it kind of starts fresh with newer but not new characters. Like they showed up in Venus Vacation, like some of them did, and then you know you have Hanukkah and Tamaki in there, but Tamaki doesn't really play that much of a major role in Dead or Alive 6 as far as I know. And then, you know, of course Hanukkah does play a major role in both games, from Dead or Alive 5 and Dead or Alive 6. But it makes me wonder, like, if they could do a soft reboot. Would you guys want a soft reboot at the end of the day, or would you want just them to continue the story as it is in Dead or Alive 7? Wow. That's quite rude. As much as I would love to have a Tenchu type of game, a Shenmue kind of game, a Stellar Blade kind of game, all these different ways of doing Dead or Alive, I think truly in my core, at the end of the day, I want to see a new fighting game. I do. But I do think it needs a small soft reboot of the story to kind of get things back on track and align the story back to somewhat back where it was like Dead or Alive 4 or 5-ish as it was, and then kind of just take 6 and just shove it somewhere and kind of just reset the story to what it was originally. I think it's one of the best fan service fighting games that we had. I mean, you had some good martial arts within Dead or Alive where you actually get to perform the martial arts moves, you get to block them and counter them. Sorry, the construction is really making it hard to film this last little bit without getting interrupted every 5 freaking seconds. Anyway, at the end of the day, it would be cool to see a new Dead or Alive game, and I hope they continue making more Dead or Alive games, despite Prism being the main game right now that we have for Dead or Alive, because I love talking about Dead or Alive. I love having Dead or Alive on the channel. I love talking and learning more things about the community and the games itself, and I want to have a way to play those games again. So I feel like Kill Techno in the next year or so should find a way to put Dead or Alive 1 through 4 on Steam so we can play them, or wherever, so we have a more convenient way of playing them. Maybe that's something they're working on right now. It could be, I don't know. But it'd be nice to see that return in some way so we can play those games. And also maybe it leads into a new reboot, small reboot of Dead or Alive. Let me know how you guys feel down in the comments down below. Let's have a conversation about it. If I got anything wrong, I don't mind being wrong. Let me know down in the comments down below, and I can, you know, we can just have a conversation about it. But if you did enjoy this video, let me know by hitting the like button and subscribing for more. I'm trying to hit 15K by the end of the year, and with your help and support, I could definitely do that. And with that being said, I will see you in the next video next time. Bye me.